Here we go. Yeah, it's pretty urgent if all of a sudden, you're having a pool party and then whatever happened overnight, it's all green or maybe it's even blue-green, which Larry Zulk will tell us, a pool expert for 20 years plus, that it's not an algae, that it's what, Larry?
If you have blue-green all over your pool, that's a discoloration from mineral stain. And that mineral is copper, and copper's in your heater. It's in the plumbing. Many pools, all the old pools were copper. Yeah, most of them now have been replumbed and now they're PVC. But that copper sulfate is blue-green on the walls. And you can, again, try to deal with that with an acid wash, but sometimes when you remove that, there's other discolorations underneath, and some people just like their blue-green pool the way it looks.
They like it.
Some people do, or just
I guess it could
and
look
start
like
again.
the Mediterranean. I guess. Is that going to hurt you?
Not at all. No, there's nothing. It's just a stain.
And can you swim in a pool that has algae? I mean, is it going to make you sick?
I would say if you have algae, it shows a sign that you don't have enough sanitizer to kill pathogens and organisms that could hurt you. So my recommendation is not to swim in because it's telling you that there could be something in there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would say not.
Well, we're going to get more into some of the problems of regular pools, but let's go to the phones because Irene from Sylmar has a pool that's not the everyday pool. It's a saltwater pool, but it's becoming, I know, a lot more popular. Irene, thanks for listening and calling in. Are you loving your saltwater pool?
Yes, actually I am.
Yeah? What made you go and switch from, traditional to saltwater?
Well, actually, the guy up the street suggested it. We apparently, my husband and I, were not maintaining the chemicals properly with a plaster pool because my husband thought, well, I can do this. Mm-hmm. And we were having to have it replastered, and the guy suggested salt water because number one, it has less chemicals, and it's nicer, feels a lot nicer on the skin. And so that's when we first converted. And then we had some problems with that because he didn't tell us we had to drain the pool and do this and that and the other. So we had to have it, of course, redone then. And since we'd already converted to salt water, we just went ahead and redid everything with the salt water and had to change out the filter, which the other guy didn't tell us about either.
Uh-oh. Well, Larry, do you concur? I mean, do you think that salt water is a good way to go?
Salt water is very popular.
Yeah.
The reason why is because when I grew up swimming, you get that sticky feeling on your skin and your hair.
Uh-huh.
That was normal. Nobody ever questioned that. But then they came out with the saltwater systems, which really, when you swim, you don't have that experience anymore, and people love that. Essentially what happens when you bring chlorine to a pool, typically liquid chlorine or dry chlorine, it's packaged to keep it it's bonded together. When you pour it in the pool, it releases the chlorine. What binding it together is those binders are in your water, in the pool water, and that's what you feel all on your skin and your hair. Saltwater pools basically eliminate that because, and this is kind of a misconception, saltwater pools are chlorinated pools. It's just pure chlorine gas, and that's generated from sodium chloride, which is salt. Chlorine comes from salt, and it's just released through electrolysis in the water. But the beautiful thing about saltwater pools is you don't have all those binders, and that's the difference. Plus, you don't have to.
So it doesn't need as much chlorine.
Well, it's
because
always
it's naturally
creating. It's always active and pure. So in a ways you don't need as much. You still need to test and keep within your parameters, but it's always introduced to the water. It's always being introduced. So it's a good alternative, and I'd say about 1 out of 10 pools now
are going that way.
They're going that way.
Can I just drain my pool and put in salt water and I'm good to go, or do you need all kinds of new equipment, different pump, different filters, everything?
You don't need to drain a pool. Basically, you're just adding the salt to the pool. What you're concerned about is the electrolysis process. You don't want to have a metal filter. And those are kind of going by the wayside anyways, and they're going to fiberglass and thermoplastic. So you basically, if you have an old stainless steel filter, you'll probably need to get rid of that. It's just basically going to rust through. So that's the only real requirement you need to do is maybe get rid of that. But other than that, you're adding salt, hundreds of pounds of salt in your pool. You get it to the right level, and there's a salt cell in the system, and it generates off that salt chlorine.
Now, if I had algae in my traditional pool, could I just add salt, and would that help solve the problem? You have to first get rid of the algae and then add the salt?
You mean if
I already had algae in my traditional pool?
Yeah.
Yeah?
If you add salt to just a pool without a salt system, without a salt cell generator, because basically when you add salt to a pool, you have a generator. It's actually a salt cell generator with a transformer. You must have that that's actually plumbed in your system by your equipment. When the water passes through, there's a cell there, and that's what turns the salt into chlorine. So you can't just put salt in a pool. You must have the generator in there as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that could possibly be my solution, too, to a bad pool.
Well, basically, I would say the reason you want to go with the salt is for the swimming experience.
It's less grime or less of the sticky
The
feeling.
stickiness, yeah. That's the reason why.
All right. Well, another question I had, cloudy pool water. What does that mean? Because sometimes you think that your pool is balanced, you think that the algae is gone, but it has this milky look. What is that all about?
Right. Could be a few things, but a lot of times there's a lack of circulation. Let's say the filter's dirty or it's not circulating enough, and there's a lot of swimmers. You have a party, a lot of people swim, and the next day it's cloudy. It's going to take some time to clear that up. And plus your sanitizer can be low. You just got to check your filtration, make sure you're filtering it long enough, make sure your pH is balanced and there's enough sanitizer. And if you're planning to have a party, you might want to add some chlorine after the party, maybe circulate it a little bit longer. Essentially, that's what it is, and the cloudiness goes away. Do
these problems occur more when it's hot than when it's cold?
Yeah. Really, swimming pools are seasonal. And in the spring and summertime, you've got to be on that chemistry. You've got to be really sharp, be into the chemistry, get it dialed in. Get your system running longer in the summertime. You want it running about maybe 8 hours a day versus your 6 hours a day, depending on the size of the pool. But in the wintertime, you've got everything metabolizes very slowly. You're not going to find algae growing in the wintertime.
We find that in our pool pond, our koi pond in the front, that we have to really be on the whole algae bloom thing as it gets hot, or any of the temperature change. It can really change quickly, and so if you aren't adding, we add natural, healthy bacteria to it, and that kind of controls that balancing act for us. But it's all about the temperature and, like you say, chemistry and balance.
Yeah, it's seasonal, and I'd say around March, that's when you clean your filter, get all your chemical balanced correctly, and you're basically prepared for when those algae spores are floating around. They want to bloom. They are waiting for the sun, and there's a certain temperature that they know they're going to thrive. And you just want to cut that off before it happens, because it costs a lot of money and time and energy to get it back.
You were saying earlier that you're all about old school, that really pool care, pool maintenance and cleaning is all about the simple things from the very beginning. Don't even buy into the new gadgets you see online. Just go with old school.
Well, it really is old school. It's worthwhile to look at what's being offered out there. Even some of that's old school now, like ozone is not new. It's been around a long time. Ionizers, which is taking bars of copper or silver, which basically what they do is they undermine algae metabolisms. They do help, but they're really supplemental. And if you want to reduce the natural sanitizer, which is chlorine is the most popular, if you want to reduce that, and some people want to do that, you can supplement. You can put in an ionizer. You can put in an ozone system. And they work, but they don't solve the whole problem. You still have to have an additional sanitizer.
Okay.
Some people love those.
How about picking a great pool guy or pool gal? We have a pool gal. And how do you know that they're staying there long enough? Because sometimes I wonder if they're just kind of there just, putting their hand in the water and they walk away. I mean, are they really doing anything?
Here's my rule of thumb.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, it's a balancing act. If you're a good – and by the way, every pool is unique. There's not a similar pool. They're all different. They have different foliage around the property. I mean, they're really unique. So every pool, if it's balanced properly, it's going to look really good. And I don't really look at the time. I can give you an average time that somebody really might be spending. But if your pool's looking beautiful, they're doing the job. They're really doing a good job. If they're balancing it properly, they're going to spend less time. That's the thing. So average, I'd say, is 20 to 40 minutes. But you'll find in the springtime, maybe, and might be 10 minutes, 15.
I mean, I've had that where they're there, they show up and they're dumping a bottle of something in the pool and they leave. I'm like, you're kidding me. Yeah. That's it? Really?
Well, you should see a pole and a net go in that pool and a brush, because you're going to want to brush those walls. And
all right. Well, Larry, it's been great having you. Larry Zulk, and you're with Spectrum Pool Care. And tell everybody what your website is so they can find you and ask you questions.
Basically, www.spectrumpoolcare.com. We've got a lot of information on our site and contact form there as well. You can get a hold of us, and our number is 818-979-6444. We service the San Fernando Valley. We've been doing that for 26 years, and as well Santa Monica, Venice, and Agora, and we do repairs.
You're all over the place.
Yeah,
What
we're
are you
here.
doing here? You get some pools to clean.
Oh, they're busy. Trust me.
All right, fun having you, Larry, and I feel smarter about my pool already. Well, hope you enjoyed the show, everybody. Lots to get going on, don't you think? From outdoor living to making your home look traveled to having sold to watching out for those bears and, of course, the pool, too. But all the fun is going to continue throughout the week. Follow me on Facebook, Facebook.com/follow Cindy. The conversation continues. And then next time, we're going to have more fun helping you discover ways to improve the inside and the outside of those spaces you call home next Saturday from 2 to 4. Have a great weekend. Keep your cool. You can find more ways to do so at cindydole.com. But until next time, the key is under the mat. Bye-bye.
I'd say that was a pretty successful broadcast.